I know you've noticed that the divide between people has only been growing worse as time goes on. Political struggles are fracturing friends into enemies, and the game industry has become ravaged by this as well. It's no hyperbole to say that the absolute state of modern gaming and entertainment as a large has become nothing short, but a constant ever-war of nonsense at the best of times. Games have become very political. It's pointless to try to claim otherwise. Many games have people now actively putting their beliefs into them as either defiance of those they disagree with, or to signal to others who believe like them to gather with them and, be together. It's become frankly exhausting, and the count of disasters that have been caused by this sort of sentiment doesn't seem to be ending anytime soon. So today I want to look at how the games industry used to tackle political stances in video games versus how they do it now, and wonder, where did everything go so wrong? So some context. Recently I've been playing Final Fantasy Tactics: The Evil East Chronicles. Full disclosure, I did get a free code from Square Enix to play the game, although I have also bought the game physically myself because, well, Final Fantasy Tactics is legitimately one of my favorite games ever made, and that's no hyperbole. I devoured this game when I was younger. I was a kid when this first came out, and trying to understand its complex themes and systems as a literal child was definitely something that had an impact on me, let me tell you, as if my channel's content isn't a dead giveaway to that already. But Final Fantasy Tactics feels as ever more relevant today as it did when it first came out in 1997. Like I said, the world is politically divided across everything. No one can agree on anything anymore. And it's gotten to the point that not just games but radicals are now trying to attack people in the streets with weapons because of ideology. So as I replay Tactics, I feel this sense of how the story here is even more relevant to this day than it was back then. I won't spoil Tactics' story in case you've never played it yourself, which you should, by the way, because again, it's one of my favorite games of all time. But the gist of it is that Tactics is easily the most politically charged Final Fantasy story in the series. And in my opinion, it's the single best depiction of how politics can be used to tell a gripping story in a media form like video games by actually challenging the player's belief systems and structures without alienating or infuriating them. Most political games these days can be condensed down to right-wing bad, left-wing good, pretty much, because the people making it all think the same. This is why arguably the best games are usually made outside of the Western Hemisphere these days, and especially back in the day when games like Tactics came out originally, because you can tell that Tactics was not made by any one person who believed any one way. It has a neutrality to its message. It's not saying that this side is good or this side is bad. Ultimately, Tactics is a game about deception and how the entire world suffers because of powerful men wanting to do horrible things to those they hate. It's not a game that by the end of it you'll go, ah yes, the conservatives are bad, or ah yes, the liberals are bad, or something lame like that. What you hopefully take away from Tactics by the end is that the systems of the world are designed by powerful people to keep the common folk oppressed, and in a never-ending war of ideology that will just keep them blinded. A weird example here, I know, but let me just say this, okay? So there's a YouTuber named Tyler Oliveira. I like his content a lot. Anyway, he does journalism on various concepts, but one of his videos has stuck with me, which is this one on screen here that I suggest you watch when you have the time, where Tyler interviews actual gang members in America and how they live their lives and roam the streets with automatic weapons in their hands just looking for fights every single day. I won't show you any footage from his videos, probably because his stuff is copyrighted to be safe, but in that video at one point, Tyler is walking with actual gang members. And then he asks the gang members if they even know why they're supposed to hate the other gang members who oppose them, either by owning a certain block to sell their merch or whatever else. And these gang members, all young in their 20s by the way, they just stand dumbfounded and unable to tell Tyler exactly why they're even fighting this gang war in the first place. They're simply hating these other gang members and waging this war of territory because it's all they know. They don't even know the names of the people who started this war in the first place. They have no clue how all this bad blood even began. All they know is that they have to fight it every day, and they're all willing to end other people or have their own lives taken, or their friends even, for a senseless war over concrete corners outside convenience stores because of some blood feud between people from both sides that they don't even know the names of, or they're probably not even alive anymore either. It was a poignant moment for me while watching that video. It showed how young men are willing to die for the ideals of old, bitter, dead men without even realizing that they're just being manipulated into into just selling their souls for something that is clearly not worth fighting for. Circling back to Final Fantasy Tactics, that's a big theme of that game. Again, like I said, weird segue with Tyler Oliveira's content, I know, but it works. And there's many moments in Tactics story where you'll just see regular faceless soldiers who don't even have names discussing how they don't even know why they're fighting this war anymore themselves, and it adds depravity to the situation that these soldiers, who were also not even given the right to have their names displayed when they're talking on screen to you, are then placed as mere obstacles in front of you as the player is set to slaughter them so that you can further your campaign in the story. It ends up making each battle feel memorable, but at its core, it makes the bloodshed senseless. Knowing that you're cutting down these squires and mages and archers and more, yet they don't even really know why they're fighting you in the first place. They just know that they've been conditioned by the hate spewed in their ears for all their lives by those above them to continue this slaughter simply because it's all they know. There's a moment in Tactics, it's not a spoiler, don't worry, but it's later on in the game when Ramza, that's the main character, is sitting at a bar. And the barkeep then asks Ramza what kind of drink he wants, offering him alcohol and such given where he is. And Ramza then asks for a glass of milk, which the barkeep understands the weird demand, noting that only men who have seen too much bloodshed and human depravity firsthand would ask for something so mundane and neutral in a tavern meant for, alcohol and more. That moment always stuck with me, but the point is that Tactics story as a whole is a great reminder that the endless tale of war is nasty business, and oftentimes those fighting it have no personal connection to the actual who or whys of the conflict, are usually the ones that end up paying the price for it. It's a game that frankly could not exist in modern day if it was written today, especially by westernized game developers, because the people making games in the West right now have at least become conditioned, like those drug dealers in Tyler's video, to simply hate people they don't agree with on things they never took the time to really understand anyways from their perspective. And the same could be said for players in general. I mean, there's a lot of hate out there. If you watch my channel, especially in the past year alone, I've said many times that I wish things were more moderate. I wish it wasn't so black and white like so many view the world these days. But this hatred is just poisoning everything, and it's leading to why so many games entertainment these days is just propaganda that's either belittling, gaslighting, or just attacking other groups almost all of the time. But as I said, when the American election of 2024 was finally concluded, I said in videos back then even that you would be seeing a lot of content being made by institutions to convey how angry they were with the results of that said election. Look at the movie that just came out, one battle after another. Here's the poster of that movie on screen here. I can't show footage because, copyright, but it's a movie that glorifies Antifa violence. It's a movie where conservatives are conveyed as evil, and no doubt it's a movie meant to radicalize people who are full of hatred into doing things they wouldn't normally do. The movie did flop at the box office because most of the world is clearly sick of this, but there will be those that will praise it regardless, like IGN, who gave it a 10 out of 10 if you can believe it. Or for example, Peacemaker Season 2, as seen here as well, is all about an alternate dimension where the Yahtzees won the war and cleansed the planet of all people except white people. Sure, it's from the comics, it's called Earth X, but the delivery of such a story at this particular moment in time is not lost on me or anyone else as to what James Gunn was trying to say here with this sort of story. I mean, there's more examples, but the point is that entertainment in general is very clearly trying to radicalize and galvanize the hatred in people's hearts to make them do things that they will regret. Probably one of the only games made in recent years that comes close to Final Fantasy Tactics in terms of conveying a more neutral standpoint is Final Fantasy 16. I mean, go figure. It's not lost on me that the same studio that made 16 was also responsible for, remastering Tactics, and again, that connection there is not lost on me. If you don't know, Final Fantasy 16 follows Clive Rosfield, one of the greatest characters written in modern fiction in my opinion. But anyway, he's the son of a powerful family whose castle is besieged and destroyed by radicals who have been conditioned to hate the Rosfields because of political reasons. I'm keeping it vague in case you want to play yourself. But eventually, you flash forward to the future. Clive is now a man without a name with a slave tattoo etched across his face, signifying that he can use magic. Since magic users in the world of Valistia, which 16 takes place in, views magic users as slaves meant to serve mankind with their gifts. Because humans in this world don't even know how to do many basic things when it comes to everyday life. Why start a fire yourself? Just go buy a slave who who can use magic and then beat them into producing fire so you can cook your food, I guess. You see, the dehumanization of people within the world of 16 is really terrible because it conveys how through normalizing hatred in social structures like master and slave, that such depraved acts can be placed upon those in this world without backlash, and it's extra poignant and purposeful that everyone in 16 is depicted as a white European person. Game websites took offense to that, of course, like Kotaku as seen here, who said that Square Enix was wrong to only have white people in 16's world, but the reasoning is tied to its lore, which I won't delve into here for spoilers, obviously, trust me, but it was very important that everyone did look the same because it was to convey that the racism, if you will, and the slavery is not only tied to the skin color of those doing it or those suffering from it either, that this slavery could be placed upon those who look similar simply due to political reasons in 16's case, that those who use magic are seen as tools and not as people to those who can't use magic. Of course, to places like Kotaku, this would fall on deaf ears because they are Western brain-rotted morons and they can't sympathize with white characters due to how they've also been conditioned by the media and the people and the stuff they consume around them. The only way 16's world would work for people like Kotaku writers is if every single magic user was dark-skinned or ethnic while the oppressors were white. It has to be painted like that for them to understand it. Then they would magically just love the game because wow, it's just like what their gender studies professor told them in college to believe as well. It shows that when it comes to nuance, these complex stories tend to fall on the deaf ears of the very idiots conditioned by that same hateful rhetoric. How many times have you seen a video where someone is asked why they hate something by someone else in like an interview and they can never come up with like a reason for why they hate the thing in the first place? Like you've probably seen some kind of clip online of a podcaster say, "Why is Trump racist?" or whoever else, and the person being interviewed, who is usually someone who opposes that, will just say, "Oh, because they're racist," and then it's because they're just like those drug dealer guys from before. They have no reasons. They don't know. Everyone's brains have just become so brain rotted by these institutions and rhetoric around them, they don't even understand why they hate the things that they're told to hate anymore. It's just, I hate this. Why? I don't know. Because I've been told to hate it, I guess. I like to think I try to give reason and nuance to why I talk about the things that I do. If I think something is wrong, I won't just say that it's wrong. I'll give you examples. I'll compare it to things because I think blindly just hating things is kind of pointless. There needs to be a reason for such emotions to be felt in the first place. But in the world that we live in and the media that's being created recently, this couldn't be further from the truth, and it's not getting better. After all, as seen here from Eurogamer, over 50% of the layoffs in the game industry in recent years are all from people who lived in California specifically. Like, you may think I'm lying. How can that even be a real thing? But it is. This was also said by Amir Sadvat, who is also an activist himself. But here's what he said while winning his Game Changer award. Over 70%, and in some years 75% of the layoffs have been in North America. North America used to have 30%, 35%, 40% of the open roles, and that number is now down to 25%. He said more. And here's another stat. Over 50% of the cuts globally have been in California. California AAA is like the epicenter of the difficulty. There is opportunity, but it may be that if you want to stay in the industry, being open to going to places like China, like Japan, not forever, but for some amount of time, that's going to become a larger part of the equation. What is the possibility, okay, that the majority of layoffs in the Western game industry also coincidentally fall within the same area where rampant woke liberalism also reigns supreme? Yet despite this, people will refuse not to see that the ideologies being pushed and the hateful brainwashing is the root cause of all of this. Instead, it's simply a problem that needs fixing, yet the solutions are never given. You can't solve hateful brain rot like this by simply putting your hands in the air and saying, wow, this is bad. There is a cause to all of this. There is a problem here. We know this because EA just got bought by Saudi Arabian investors. We know this because BioWare is currently crapping their pants wondering if they'll even exist tomorrow due to that merger. And at what point do we not understand that this mind virus, which is really all you can call it, is suffocating and destroying this industry that is ripe with potential? Circling back to Final Fantasy Tactics, this is why I mean this game's story and themes are more poignant than ever before, because it shows, as does Final Fantasy 16 as well, that you can have political elements in your video games, and you can use politics in your stories and themes to create content that people do want to play and won't boycott, like so many other games have tried and failed in the past. But in order to allow that to happen, there's key lessons that need to be learned. One is that if you use politics in your game's themes, you can't vilify everyone that you disagree with as the enemy, because it's not black and white like that. Tactics, for example, makes everyone a sinner. Modern Western game slop makes the liberals the clear good guys all of the time, and that's it every single time. It's not the same at all. You can't talk politics in games if you're unwilling to realize that every side is flawed. I like to think that I'm more moderate. Sure, some will think that I'm far right, which I don't think I am, but criticism has to be laid on these games because their messages and themes will and have had real effects on people's viewpoints. If I was a child today and the first, political game I played was some sort of like sweet baby slop, I would likely be a very different person mentally than who I am today, thankfully, because I played Final Fantasy Tactics instead as a child. Tactics taught me that there really is real evil in this world and that every side of the political argument is full of sinners, whether they want to admit it or not. And to believe that only one side is just is to be just like those drug dealers that were roaming the streets fighting a war that they will never understand. Until one day when they are like fatally wounded and they'll be lying there bleeding out in some alleyway, they're going to look up at the sky and wonder why they were even participating in this so-called war that had nothing to do with them in the end anyways. Everyone needs to realize this, that things can be nuanced. Yes, Tactics does eventually reveal its evil in its story, which I won't reveal here for spoilers, but all I'm going to say is that they smartfully present the true evil behind the war to not be any one political side of the argument. It's instead a mystery third party, something worse and more corrupt than anything that the left or the right, I guess, could ever hope to become. And that the true evil is made up of people who actually exist from both sides of the political spectrum in public. They're just playing everyone for their own sides, and it's genius. And that's the important part here, that all of this fighting is really pointless when the real enemies are just gaming both sides anyways. As long as everyone continues to fight in the streets, the corporations will get bought in secret, bills will get signed in secret, and then new horrors will get made anyways. But no one can notice it because they're too busy ensuring that the people they've been conditioned to hate are defeated in the streets, not realizing that every day new equally radicalized individuals are going to be born on each side anyways. Making this a cycle of violence that will never end. It will just never end. At least with things like YouTube and games like Tactics being now more readily available, I hope people do try to expand their worldview more if they can, but the problem with a lot of content today is that it's no longer nuanced. It's just, this game hates these sorts of people and that's it. Look at Insomniac right now, where they had this post, as you can see here, where Insomniac posted a finger pointing with the clown emoji. The comments were all over the place with this post. They were making fun of conservatives. Are they making fun of themselves? Who are they laughing at specific? Some thought maybe it had to do with Mystique's reveal in the Wolverine trailer, as seen here from thegamer.com, titled Insomniac claps back at everyone calling Mystique woke. I mean, maybe some people did. I just think Mystique looks a bit more androgynous than usual is all. She's clearly meant to be a feminine woman who can change forms, but Insomniac is making her look a little bit like both sides, if you catch my drift. But regardless, that Insomniac post is exactly what I mean. Because of who they were attacking or pointing fun at, the fact was that the mere existence of a post like that is just going to start more discourse. It adds nothing is what I'm saying. It just adds to, further anger people and get them talking. And I just wish companies didn't do these sorts of things at all. Instead, I wish they just made cool games and stopped trying to divide the player base or be political, because chances are you won't be able to do that with any nuance anyways. And in Insomniac's case with Spider-Man 2 as any indicator, they're about as subtle as a nuke going off. Or you had the Indiana Jones thing, where in case you didn't know, Bethesda's Twitter page, as seen here, posted a scene from the Indiana Jones game where Indy is petting a cat, saying that the cat doesn't like fascists. And this happened right around when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, so the timing was very obvious. Again, only Western companies do this. You never see the Eastern Asian studios celebrating these sorts of things ever. I mean, at least not openly anyways. But what I think needs to be said is that anyone who agrees with these Western groups is just one wrong opinion away from being treated just like the ones they've been conditioned to hate as well. It won't take much. You can be pro whatever they advocate for. If you get caught liking a post, talking to someone they hate, you'll become just as evil as the people they hate because they've been told that they're awful. And because of that, it's why nothing interesting for the most part gets made by the Western companies compared to the East. They all say the same things, they all believe the same way, and thus nothing interesting is ever done. Insomniac, Bethesda, Concord, Dustborn, it just keeps going. You won't get a game like Final Fantasy Tactics in today's climate being made by people like this, because it would require them to have actual introspective thoughts that would challenge their own belief systems, which they will never do. And I'll end this video on this interview from denfamicogamer.com, which is translated into English as it says here. Final Fantasy Tactics was our greatest masterpiece, and we put all our effort into it at the time. They interviewed the creators of Tactics now 30 years almost after its initial release. Specifically Matsuno, that's the mastermind, if you will, behind Tactics story and themes, and he said this in the interview, how he believes that the themes of Tactics are now even more relevant today. Here's what he said said, this game was made nearly 30 years ago during a time of many economic and political problems such as the bursting of the bubble economy and the Gulf War. In Japan in particular, the economy worsened in the aftermath of the bubble. Many companies went bankrupt and there was a recession. In this climate, Final Fantasy Tactics was released as a work depicting class struggle with the major theme of the haves and the have-nots. 30 years have passed since then, and unfortunately the environment surrounding the world has not changed, he continues. Economic disparity remains the same and the division is not a good thing. The same can be said about wars around the world. Conflicts are constantly occurring in various places such as between Russia and Ukraine, Israel and Hezbollah, and Syria. I thought maybe it'll be a little better in 30 years. But nothing has changed. In fact, it might have been better in the 90s. In that sense, I think there will be something interesting to feel even if you play this game in 2025. I hope that those who have not yet played the game, as well as those who have already played it, will pick it up and give it a try. And he's right. Matsuno is 100% right in my opinion that the world in the 90s was clearly better than it is now. Everything is so divided and full of hate now, and I hope a game like Final Fantasy Tactics can be played by those who have never played it so that they can see what I mean. That the world does need to heal, and the hatred has to be understood and confronted, because the way the games industry and the world at large is going right now, it's just going to lead to more extreme products that both alienate fans and cause further mass layoffs. I hope Final Fantasy Tactics is played by some of you that are watching this, because I highly recommend it. Its story and themes will be very relevant to what's going on today. And I hope the people who make art that are so full of hate and anger also play it themselves to try to understand why their paths will also just lead to ruin as well. The world can't heal if everyone is just constantly at each other's necks, and like Tactics story conveys, this war really is nasty business that will frankly just leave all of us the worse in the long run. And hopefully by making a video like this too, we can all realize that there is fault in everything. And like the world of Evil East that Final Fantasy Tactics takes place in, everyone is a sinner and no one is without fault. But we need to build these bridges before it's too late, and I hope I was able to convey what I wanted to say here well enough. But what do you think? Has the world gotten better since the 90s? Are games like Tactics more relevant than ever? Can games like it even exist in today's world from Western game developers? It's really no surprise that Final Fantasy 16 is a Japanese-made game, because there's no way in hell a game like that could exist from the West for obvious reasons. It's too nuanced, and that makes me terribly sad that we won't get more content like that, probably. However, I guess in the end, is that good or bad, or is the concept of acceptance lost in an age of misery like now? Let me know in the comments. Thank you all for watching, letting me rant, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.